there.
Hello, guys. How are you?
How's everyone?
Good evening.
Good evening. Ooh. This thing's bright.
Oh, Judy has a different background.
Yeah, I'm in San Francisco today.
Tired of the beach. Renee still has the pots and pans, though.
I do. I'm sorry.
Now we just need Joe.
Okay, we are now recording.
Okay, it is 7:01 on Monday, August 17, 2020. Welcome to the Bedminster Township Committee meeting. I'll recognize that we have a full complement of our Township Committee in attendance for tonight. Ms. Sullivan, may we please have the Open Public Meeting Act statement?
Yes, sir. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News in Somerville and to the Burnsville News in Whippany. Also to all subscribers, and then posted here at the Township Building as of January 16th, 2020.
Great, thank you. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you don't have a flag, there's one right over here.
Pledge allegiance to the
The
flag
flag of the United
States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
One
nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and
and justice for all.
That is, once again, as Colin has heard me say, so much better than the planning board. August 17th, on the county website, again, as I am most days, and looking at the COVID numbers as of today, Somerset County Health Department is reporting Bedminster as having 48 confirmed cases. And you may have heard me say that in the past, we were at 5 fatalities, and then we were down at 4 fatalities, and then we went back up to 5 fatalities. And the County Health Department now has us listed as 4 fatalities from Bedminster residents. So we've said this before, the information and the distribution of information coming from the state and the county, it's, you know, they're working with the data they have. And so in discussions with the County Health Department before, an address, a Bedminster resident might be associated with another town, another resident in another town might be associated with Bedminster. Causes of death may change based upon laboratory findings. These numbers are supposed to be based upon confirmed positive cases and fatalities linked with those laboratory test results. But once again, the interpretation of data is there's still some subjective and still room for human error. But in any event, COVID, as we all know, remains with us here in Bedminster, here in Somerset County, and said it, and I think all the Township Committee members have said this as well. Use common sense, social distance, wear a mask. Let's get on with the meeting. Approval of minutes. Ms. Sullivan, we have 2 minutes for review.
Yes.
Has everyone had the chance to review those minutes? And if you have not provided your comments to Ms. Sullivan, now is your opportunity. Saying none, may we have a motion to approve both August 3, 2020 regular Township Committee meeting minutes and the August 3rd, 2020 closed session meeting minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Permits and raffles. We have one, a special use permit, Pottersville Volunteer Fire Company Ladies Auxiliary, to place a clothing bin for donation of clothing for the month of September 2020 in the parking lot of the Pottersville Fire Company on Pottersville Road. Clothing donations will be accepted on weekends while the bin is monitored for donations during the month of September. And I believe
We have Renee Trambert from the Ladies Auxiliary to speak to you tonight.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, all. From Morristown Medical Center. I'm a nurse here, and I am the president of the Ladies Auxiliary of the Pottersville Volunteer Fire Company. I'm working with Lou Moore on a clothing drive to raise monies. I mean, as you all know, we did not have the Antique Festival this year due to COVID. So I'm trying to work very hard with the ladies on various ways of raising money for the fire department in Pottersville. So one venue was the A&E Clothing Corporation Drive. Since 1998, the Clothing Corporation has been providing schools, clubs, organizations, teams, and religious affiliated organizations with a simple way to raise money for their programs. And basically, it's a clothing drive that we will have on October 3rd, a Saturday. That's the day that the clothes will be picked up by this company. But we would like to have a container, a shipping container that Lou Moore could get from DeLucas Towing to stay on the grounds of the fire company in a safe manner. It's green, it's not, it's attractive. It would be placed near the school on the side, that little school, but it would be locked. Lou will have a key, I will have a key, and our goal is to collect as many bags of clothing, shoes, pocketbooks, belts, accessories, every week on a Saturday, every Saturday in September, all 4 Saturdays, the 5th, the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th. The ladies will be out there, there'll be at least 4 of us collecting, wearing gloves, wearing masks. I could provide all that free, to the ladies. And we will put signs up in the community at the Pottersville Fire Department, in Califon, and throughout Tewksbury, and try to get as much tonnage, because it's 20 cents per ton. 20 cents per pound, excuse me. And we will try to raise as much money as we can for the fire company. So so we propose to provide a container on the grounds of the fire company.
Ask a quick question, Mayor?
Yeah. Oh.
First off, thanks for everything you do and keeping us safe and on the front lines. And I know it's a hard thing to do in this world. But thanks for everything there, and thanks for what you're doing for the fire department. My question though is, a lot of times people like to donate. They like to get their receipts for their tax write-offs. Is that something that's, do you know if that's being set up through the fire company? How would someone go about getting a receipt?
Yes, Mr. Hickey, we can provide that. Yes, we do have a form that we will be able to provide to the participants.
Okay, great.
Renee, does it matter if the clothing is current or in good shape? Because I know some places that take clothing, they really just sell it for rags. So they're just looking for the fabric, but are you guys going to be selling it like for the battered women's shelter or something like that? Do you know?
These clothes, they provide quality, new or used clothing to developing countries. So it's not used as rags. They give the clothes to countries like Honduras, Haiti, Ecuador, Mexico, Chile, and also parts of the United States and Eastern Europe.
Okay, good. That'll help me decide what to give.
No, anything. We'll take anything, Renee. Especially linens, because they're very heavy.
Oh, oh yeah. All right. Towels, wet towels. Here we come.
Yeah, exactly.
So Renee, is it just going to be bring bags or boxes? There's no chute associated with, like you see at other clothing bins. So this is basically, and then the ladies auxiliary will put them into the container.
Exactly. That we'll have a bunch of ladies there from 8 to 12 every Saturday. The participants could drop off their clothes, and we will be putting it on the crate. The patient, we won't put anyone in danger. In the sense of going up a little ramp to, put it on the crate. We will do all that. It will be very safe, I could assure you.
Okay, great.
Do you have something that I can share with the master associations here in the Hill so they can post it to the homeowners?
Oh, I will. I will make a flyer, Renee, and I
Okay.
will provide it for you.
Okay,
But
that'd be
thank
great.
you for doing that. That would be tremendous.
Yeah, Renee, if you could email that to me as well, we'll put something up at the township building too.
Oh, thank you so much. It means a lot. Thank you, ladies.
And if you get a flyer, we can also let people know at the farmer's market. We've had a very great relationship with Pottersville Fire Company over at the farmer's market, with you guys showing up over the years. And if you, once again, if Ladies Auxiliary and the fire company want to show up again this year, welcome to do so.
Okay.
So that to Chief Moore and to any of the folks on the auxiliary.
Well, thank you. Thank you very
Any
much.
questions or comments for Ms. Trambert?
Renee, just one quick question. During the week, people may stop by, drop off a bag or two. Will anybody be around just to collect it and put it into the storage area?
Yes, Colin, I will. I will make it a point to go to the firehouse with Lou Moore, at separate times. I'll do every Monday. He'll do every Friday. Yes, we won't let it collect and become a fire hazard.
Great, thank you. And I applaud your efforts. Thank you so much for all you do.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for letting me attend this meeting and for speaking.
I'm glad you're here.
Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
If there's no more questions or comments, may we have a motion to approve the special use permit?
So moved. Oop.
Okay, there you go. No, go ahead. We'll go with that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very
Renee. Good luck.
much.
Good luck,
Thank you.
Renee.
Thanks, Renee.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I hope
got
you
it.
will drop off some clothing.
Oh, no
You got
doubt.
it, absolutely.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Here's your special use permit. It's signed.
Oh, okay. Could Lou Moore pick it up tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll make sure he gets it.
Thank you, Judy. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I love Bedminster. Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Public comments. This is the one opportunity for public comment. Any members of the public that wish to make a statement or comment? Now's your opportunity. Ms. Sullivan, please scan.
Well, we have Mr. Zavalik from the Burnsville News. We have our police chief and deputy clerk are also in the room. And Mr. Bellardo has an associate that's in with us as well, but no other members of the public.
Okay, if no one raises their hand,
No.
let's proceed. Thank you all very much. So monthly report discussion by subcommittee chair, but we're going to do a quick little detour, but this will segue into some of the subcommittee reports. So from our last township committee meeting, we had a tropical storm blow through and wreak a little bit of havoc here in New Jersey, here in Somerset County, and certainly here in Bedminster. I know that 4 of the 5 township committee members were without power. We all had to plug into Renee with lots of extension cords. So thank you, Renee. You've seen the articles in the papers, including the Burnsville News, about the reaction to JCP&L's communication plan, the distribution of information, the estimated time of restorations, and the frequency with which updates were provided, and also the inaccuracy of those restoration times and where work was actually happening, and also with the prioritization of areas that were in need of restoration. Colin, before we get to both your subcommittee report and later on under the utility, under old business, we had been in communication with Carol Bianchi from JCP&L really throughout, and actually before the event itself. And Carol is a good liaison and a good resource for us to have. However, the information that was coming out from JCP&L management was certainly lacking. And the statements that were being made by management, frankly, was not helpful. Was on daily phone calls with other mayors and JCP&L management about the restoration activities, and the comments were overwhelmingly consistent. Poor response, poor preparation, distribution of wrong information, and telling us again and again that you're working on it, your power will be restored, your outside date for restoration is the 11th, no, it's the 13th, no, it's the 11th, no, it's the 19th, no, it's tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning, no, it's tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the afternoon, no, it's the next day at 5 in the afternoon. That was not helpful to our residents who could plan around whether they should leave, whether they should buy more food, whether they should get ice. Speaking of ice, the communication system with regard to the availability of ice and identifying King's here in Bedminster as one of those resources, and King's was not prepared for that and ran out of ice relatively quickly. A lot of the venting that I think I and other mayors were prepared for with JCP&L, that thunder got stolen because all the other mayors that got in first on the communication line had the opportunity to present, and we heard the same comments over and over again. Colin and I had worked up some points that we wanted raised with JCP&L. And a lot of this is Colin's preparation and his experience with the utility industry. And also in convening with the utility, I guess what we call them, sort of the ad hoc committee from Wood Duck Pond and the Four Oaks neighborhood. There's work for JCP&L to do, and there should be lessons learned. And this is not something that, okay, Bedminster was restored, wash our hands with it, cross our fingers for the next storm that comes around, and cross our fingers for the next storm that follows that, and the next storm, and the next storm. That is not a plan that we should be confident in. So there are talking points, and I think we will see Colin and the subcommittee convening shortly with or without JCP&L. I'm not sure what the first meeting is. But having said that, I'm just going to quickly turn it over to Committeeman Hickey to outline the reaction to JCP&L.
Thank you, Mayor. I think as you've hinted at, I think we, as elected officials and citizens alike, felt that we were betrayed by JCP&L because we thought these issues had been addressed post-Sandy, that they had learned their lessons and made changes, and clearly that's not the case. And you hit on a lot of them, but I think it's a complex intertwining of people, processes, and technology, and they have failed on all three fronts. Everything from, for example, they were announcing this Saturday after the event that they were doing more truck rolls from Ohio back here to Bedminster or back to New Jersey. Those assets should have been positioned on Monday before the Tuesday event, not after the event or 4 days later after the event. We're speaking anecdotally with linemen who are from out of state, who are indicating to us that they were not released by JCP&L to go to work for sometimes an entire day. So it's a waste of time. You referenced the estimated time for restoration, people being given different numbers at different times, and then suddenly JCP&L seemed to throw up their hands and just give out a global estimated time for restoration, which is basically when 99% of the state gets restored. Well, that helps nobody because then everybody thinks they're last in the queue. Clearly, they haven't invested in both the technology to make proper estimates, the personnel who could have been deployed right as the storm event ended, and within 12 hours, what you do in the utility industry is basically you develop something called a ROMA, a rough order of magnitude analysis, where you say, hey, here's how much damage there is. We think we can repair this in an hour, a day, a week, or a month. They haven't done that. They haven't set up the processes to do that. They failed on their inbound communications where customers couldn't report outages. They failed to maintain a mobile application, which used to be available so customers could get status updates. They discontinued that last year inexplicably. They had jammed phone numbers. They had a website that was going down. Instead, they were just sending out emails telling us about the weather and telling us about process diagrams for restoration, when the only question that people had on their mind was, when is my power going to be restored? That's all anybody cares about in a power outage. They have failed on their tree trimming efforts, quite frankly. They should be more aggressive. They need to better fund it. We found out the numbers on some of those calls you referenced there, where it's a mere pittance of their revenue. I think they talked about $20 million this year, which is nothing given the entirety of their budget. They need to do better targeting for those tree trimming efforts. They need to use predictive tools so they can figure out if there's a cluster of trees that have fallen in the past on certain lines, that's probably where you need to go do the trimming next time. They need to pre-position assets ahead of an event, meaning equipment, poles, cabling. You can put them on a mobile platform. You can put them on a truck, a trailer. You could even drop them off at our DPW yard so that the equipment is there ready for you to go. We found out, they have no GPS on the trucks. So the JCP&L management doesn't know where the crews are at. They are relying on the public to basically call in the outages because they have no telemetry in the network. So they don't know when the neighborhood network or the feeder network is actually out. They're waiting for phone calls. They need to take advantage of 2020 technology instead of relying on 1920 technology to be able to better track where the outage is occurring, to look at cluster maps, and then deploy the crews in order to address the issues. And also, and you referenced this before, Mayor, the information that we were getting was static snapshots. We need a mayor's dashboard where you as mayor or any elected officials can get in on real time, see where the outages are, see the neighborhoods that are most impacted, so that when our residents reach out, we can give them the information. Because let's face it, we are tier 1 support during an emergency. They're calling us because they can't get through to JCP&L. There is one silver lining in this, and I'll give you some numbers. Bedminster Township, based on the number of homes served and the number of outages, about 40% of our customers were out during the storm event. We were actually the leader in Somerset Hills. I looked at some of the other towns surrounding us. Berners Township looks about 48% were out. Branchburg, 54% of customers were out. Burnsville, 63% of customers were out. Warren, 70%. Hillsborough, 98% of customers were out. Far Hills, as well as Peapack Gladstone, 100% of the customers were out. Look, we were a little lucky. I also think it's a bit of an ounce of prevention because we had made investments and compelled JCP&L to make changes over the last 18 to 24 months. New cabling, changed the wiring over the 287 entrance ramp, new transformers. All that, I think, went towards the fact that 60% of our residents did stay in power, including basically the canary in the coal mine, which is Wood Duck Pond, which goes out the minute the wind blows normally. That stayed up. And that, I think, owes a lot to some of the efforts that we had made, and we need to keep making, because obviously there were significant neighborhoods in the hills that were impacted, as well as Western Bedminster. And that's kind of what we plan to do from the advocacy group standpoint, is tee up these issues, work with our JCP&L reps, work with them as they do their postmortems, and at the same time, obviously, work through our legislators, assemblymen, senators, BPU, and whoever else needs to be notified. Because look, these are very simple business problems to solve, but they have to be willing to take it on and make the investments to go do it. Sorry for a long-winded response, Mayor, but that's kind of where we're at.
So, Colin, do you envision meeting with the group shortly?
Yes, so the group has been in contact. We're trying to arrange a meeting for later this week or early next. And then we will also potentially look to expand our roster by an additional member have somebody in mind who can help represent some of the areas in the hills and lower hills that were also impacted.
Okay,
So
great.
we'll coordinate that and I'll give a report back at our next meeting.
And what I would like to come out of this is a letter that we can send to JCP&L management, send to our liaison, and also send to some other folks at BPU and else, urging, and also to the extent that we can distribute that to other municipalities to see if they can't sign on board. But you know, I've already seen the preliminary points that you and I have worked up, and you know, I think it's great. I think this is very helpful in preparation for the next event and the next event after that. And speaking of that, there's something on the agenda, but I want to bring it up to the front as well in this discussion, which is both Colin and I were contacted by Carol Bianchi about a tree trimming proposal that is pending down in Trenton. And I'm going to read a quick statement that Mayor Bianchi gave us. So this is not my statement. This is what she provided us. JCP&L, along with telephone and cable providers, completed restoration efforts from the aftermath of Tropical Storm Isaias. Once again, trees were the primary cause of these outages and road closures. The line workers are doing a great job with restoration efforts. However, the storms are becoming more intense each year, causing havoc to our communities and delaying restoration. Assemblyman D'Angelo is the chairman of the Utilities and Telecommunications Board. He's meeting with the utilities on Wednesday to discuss restoration efforts. We need your voice that more aggressive tree trimming is needed. If you are inclined to send a letter in support of additional trimming, please send an email on Township letterhead no later than Tuesday to Assembly and D'Angelo. Here's the email address. Carol came by the farmer's market where we conducted some impromptu business. And she presented me with a draft letter that she anticipated was going to be utilized by another town. I believe this town was from Morris County. It's addressed to Assemblyman D'Angelo. In your review of the recent storm and the response by JCP&L, I would suggest that increasing the tree trimming initiative would greatly minimize the storm recovery time. The municipality is blacked out there. Like many Somerset and Morris County towns, is a heavily wooded community with many large older trees. Whenever we have a storm, most of the damage is from trees and branches. The increased cost of a more extensive proactive plan to trim these trees would be offset by a reduction in cost for recovery. It would also reduce the cost to the municipality for road clearing. While communications with customers was a problem, it greatly improved when our regional external affairs consultant, Carol Bianchi, maybe I'm wondering if Carol wrote this, communicated directly with our police chief to locate and respond to trouble areas. JCP&L's communication system proved inefficient and is definitely in need of improvement. However, the personnel were continually responsive throughout the event. Okay, so this is one form of a letter that was sent to Assemblyman D'Angelo. We do not have to send a letter. We could send a letter just like that, or we could certainly send a letter that addressed our own concerns and our own thoughts on the situation. We've discussed tree trimming many times in the past. And I believe that we had all recognized that the outages that we experience most frequently here in Bedminster is tree related. So once in a while, yep, there is equipment failures, but by and large, it's because the overhead lines that come into Bedminster from the different transmission systems go through roads and other areas where there are heavy tree cover. And whether JCP&L is spending enough money. I think we probably all agree that they probably aren't, but we certainly also know that their opportunity to do tree trimming within the radius of the line is limited by legislation. So this is certainly something I believe that I would support in asking Trenton to enable JCP&L and all other utilities for the opportunity to do more aggressive tree trimming in the vicinity of those lines. But you know, if something's going to go out on letterhead, we should discuss it. So I'd like to hear everyone's thoughts on this. First, you have to unmute yourselves.
You want to jump in? I mean, I think it's a good initiative, certainly to support. I think that we have a unique perspective on this, and that we've seen them come through town and do some aggressive tree trimming, and we've seen some results. So I think that a letter saying, yes, we support this, part of that letter should also say, and we've actually seen the benefits of this. I mean, we still have problems, and we still, you know, we're not to where we want to be, but I think supporting the initiative, but then also recognizing that we've seen results, is, you know, that's going to hit a little bit better, in my opinion, than just, yeah, we think that it should be done because our service is terrible. So I think that's an important message to get through.
Okay, writing that down. Thank you. That's a good point.
Look, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, look, obviously I'm fully supportive of the effort. I had the opportunity to testify in front of the DPU earlier this year, encouraging more and more tree trimming. They should be actually making larger investments, as we talked about. They should also be doing it in a targeted fashion, because one of the things you learn about in networks is typically it's the 80-20 rule. So you can solve 80% of your problems through some very simple targeted measures. And I think this is one of them, which will give great rewards. So they should be doing it, and they should be doing it in a more targeted fashion, and they should be doing more of it.
So a quick question on that comment. Is it not just the radius around the lines that they need access to, but is it also that there should be a directive, or I think of the right term, I don't want to, you know, maybe it should be a requirement that additional funds be spent by the utilities. So it's not just, hey, you're authorized to do more aggressive trimming in a greater radius around the lines, but you, from the state license of the franchise, you should be spending more money. There should be, you know, I think when the mayors pointed out that, I forget which mayor it was, so I apologize. I think he said it was, you know, your $20 million that you spend on tree trimming is, you know, 0.5%
Right.
revenue.
You could certainly index it against revenue. There are near neighbor comparables you could do with other utilities to figure out what the right number is. And in addition to the money, it's the timing, because, you know, they've been in front of us and they've said, well, we have a 4-year rotation. You know, we do every year, we do a little. Well, what's the magic in 4 years? Should it be every 3 years, every 2 years? Clearly, it's not working because of the outages that we're seeing. So they need to up both the amount as well as the timing of that trimming.
Right. That was more along the lines of what I was going to say, that, you know, we acknowledge that there's a natural disaster, you know, and things are going to happen. But I was going more along the lines of how much money you spend bringing crews in from other states to fix the mess, as opposed to preventing the mess by investing a little bit more in preventative actions like tree trimming and whatnot. So that's kind of along the lines where I was going. And having a plan.
My sense on that, Mayor, is that I don't, generally speaking, I don't like telling people how to spend their money.
Right.
That being said, this is a utility, and we're told who we have to use for our electric. So it's not like you can go out to the market and, you know, get energy and get lines and power sources from other folks. So I guess that sort of, counters that a bit, but perhaps rather than saying, spend your money, advocate for what Colin was suggesting, that a more robust program. And whether it's a 2-year program for all of your lines instead of a 4-year, that, obviously innate in that is that they're going to have to roll out some more money if they can't meet it. But, you may have other power companies that are doing it right, and I just have a hard time with any municipality or governmental agency telling a private entity how to spend money. But I think they do have to provide the service, and, however they got to figure it out, then they figure it out, but maybe advocate for more of a regulatory clamp down as opposed to open up your wallet.
Got it. All right, so I've got these points down here. Any other, Renee?
Mayor, the one thing I was thinking is the power's out, but it's not just our computers that aren't working. It's the traffic lights. It's the electricity in people's homes who need the oxygen providers. I mean, there's all sorts of health issues, and we don't have a hospital here, but those go out. If they don't have their own power, then they're out of luck. So I don't think it's beyond our scope to say you need to do a better job.
Once again, it's interesting about, what Howard Town is made up of various residential types. And you could be in a part of town where you are on private well water and you need electricity to pump water into your house, and you might need electricity for your sewage ejector pump to pump wastewater from your house back to your septic system, right? A lot of those areas were without power for a very long time. So the ramifications really are felt differently in different neighborhoods, but they were all significant.
And many of the parts of town here in the hills where I am, we don't have the option for generators. I mean, private homes, even if it's expensive, you can get it, you can use a generator, but we're not really allowed to use them up here. So we have no option. Right.
So, all these, if you're in single family, you're in multifamily, you're in condo, you're back in the woods of Bedminster, everyone is suffering and suffering a little bit differently. And Renee, you talked about lights at the signals going out. We had 206 in Lamington was out. We had 202 and Maine and Lamington was out. We had 202, 206 at River Road. That signal was out.
Burnt Mills.
I drove to Morristown late Tuesday evening, and I'll tell you that drive up 202 all the way to Morristown, detoured 3 times off of 202 because there were trees down and lines hanging. And, that's a function not just of impact because of power outage, but it screws up the town. We had a number of streets in Bedminster that were closed for, our DPW was great. I heard from residents. I heard one resident called me Tuesday early evening, wanted to let me know what a great job John Mance and DPW did clearing roads on the western side of Bedminster. And I, got that message over to John right away and to everyone on Township Committee that they were out there doing the best they can, cutting down trees that were hanging over the roads. And when they had to stop because there were wires down, they had to wait for JCP&L or someone else to come in and make sure that the area was safe to clear the trees and reopen those roads. So You know, DPW was out there as soon as the storm was over. So great job by them. Okay, so I will leave the form letter, or the letter that went from the Morris County municipality, and some of these comments with Ms. Sullivan, and hopefully we'll have something to draft for everyone to get their eyes on. Judy, is that okay? Mid-morning tomorrow? She says absolutely. She says she's already working on it.
Yeah. I just need the draft from you, that's all.
Okay, yep, I will leave it. I'll leave it on Sarah's desk. Okay, so that which brings us back to finishing up monthly report discussion by subcommittee chair, Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just start by tagging on to the last conversation. Last week, I pinch hit for you, Mayor, and sat in on the county OEM call, and no real updates coming out of that, except for Kip Bateman indicated that he co-sponsored a bill that's currently pending in committee to permit folks to collect up to $500 of lost groceries from the electrical companies for, you know, the extended power outage. So that was one of the things I think, Renee, you were mentioning earlier about, you know, the inherent costs of losing your power. And as I know, because I tried to do it years and years and years ago, I think it was Hurricane Floyd, I tried to put a claim in with the insurance carrier for the lost food, and you're not covered for that. So there's a bill pending on that. So we'll see what happens with that. On DPW, you're right. John and his group they've been dedicating most of their time to getting the brush from the storm cleaned up and out of the way so folks can go back to business as normal. All of the commercial corridors, I'm told, have been cleaned up. They're going to turn their attention to the residential areas over the next 2 weeks. So folks, get your limbs out to the street so it's easy for the DPW folks to grab it, pull it, and chip it and move on. The River Road project's about 90% complete. They're doing some punch list items out there, so we're hopeful to get that final sign off on that in the next couple weeks. Let's see, Pluckman Schoolhouse Park, still waiting for the paver to give us a date. They're trying to coordinate the paving of that parking lot with the school. School's going to require a little bit more time, but they're hopeful that maybe Thursday, maybe Friday this week, they'll get both of those projects done. And then after that, just do some little bit of landscape work at the park, and that should be closed out soon. John's obviously, you know, on the list of things to do is your annual cutting of the medians and the shoulders of our roads. He said that's a little bit delayed. Please be patient. He's aware of it. He's just, you know, the storms put us back a little bit. So they're behind a little bit on the trimming. We've had one DPW employee who has resigned, given his notice. So we're in the process of, you know, to figuring out how, if any, do we fill that. I suspect that it's going to be a position that's going to be filled, because I think we're down a couple folks there. So I'll work with Gina and John and Nancy, and we'll see where we're going with that. He's going to start putting together some information for us. Historic preservation, we got a meeting coming up. We weren't supposed to have an August meeting, but there is an application, so we're going to try to get it together and bang that out for a quick meeting so that applicant can get off and running. And then just sort of continuing into the historic preservation realm. This past week, Mayor, myself, Judy, and Paul Ferraro had a telephone conversation with the pastor over at Pluckerman Presbyterian Church with the scaffolding, just to get an idea of what's going on with that project. As you know, the scaffolding's been up there for quite some time. The pastor and us on our end had a productive telephone conversation. And we essentially, at the end of the day, extended the scaffolding to the end of September. Pastor was very appreciative of that, assured us that the work through Habitat for Humanity, everything exterior wise, will be done far in advance of that. And he was appreciative of the extra time. And we, you know, reiterated, you know, take your time on the interior, but let's get that scaffolding off and let's get that property back to the Pluckham Historic Village character, and Pastor was completely on board with that, very appreciative of the efforts. And then, as you know, we've got that property maintenance ordinance we worked on over the last year or so, and it's on the books. We've, through Mr. Haggerty and the zoning, we've connected with the property owner of the 2 structures in Pluckham Village that's really in need of some work. I think you all know which 2 we're talking about. At the owner, we finally were able to pin the owner down. We got him. We know where he lives now, and we're communicating with them and letting them know that we've got to start the process for going down the road of that property maintenance ordinance. Obviously, we can always back off on that, but we've got to start that process. It's been quite a long time for those properties to come up to snuff, and owner's aware of it and is working with Mr. Haggerty, and we're hopeful that, it will go seamlessly and there'll be no need to elevate it to the next level, but it's sort of a dual track. We don't want to lose time with it. I know it's an issue that certainly has the eyes of most of the folks that go by that area. So it would be a welcome sight to have those 2 or those 3 properties really, fixed up and brought back to where I think everybody expects them. And other than that, I think that's all I've got.
Great. Thank you, Doug. So I will say that we had heard that there was supposed to be some work on those 2 buildings in Pluckham over the weekend, and it was confirmed that a landscaper was there on Saturday. Joe sent an email around saying that he had confirmation from one of the police officers that they did observe a landscaper out there. I drove by it this morning, and yeah, someone did something out there. I would not say that it was complete and that there's still some efforts to be done out there, but that's my untrained eye, and I know that Attorney Bellardo will be continuing to work with Joe Haggerty to make sure all that work stays true and is completed appropriately within the confines of that ordinance, Doug. So once again, it's that ordinance was helpful, and hopefully we don't have to use it, but it's good to have that available to us. So thank you. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to close out the JCP&L discussion, we were talking about some of the economic effects. And one thing we didn't talk about was the fact that obviously with people at home this summer, some taking classes, but most of us working from home since we can't go into our offices. When the power goes out, or sometimes even when it doesn't go out, your cable modem might go out, or it's not receiving a signal. Because even though you might have power in your house, that cable modem has a long wire that connects to a set of cable modems or receivers at the other end. And if that rack in that hub in that neighborhood somewhere else doesn't have power, you don't get connectivity. So even though you may not have lost power, you may have lost economic productivity, the ability to go to school, to do a variety of activities, again, because of the power outage. So it's another impact, even if you haven't lost power. Just want to throw that out there. Subcommittee stuff. Let's see, rec. We continue to look into the possibility of a fall outdoor basketball league for grades 4 to 8, since obviously access to indoor facilities is going to be highly unlikely for the remainder of the year. I understand Burnsville is in. PPAC Gladstone is interested, but needs the permission of their governing body. So we'll follow up on that. The long-awaited rec survey, user-inspired but COVID delayed, is slated to go live within the next couple of weeks. We have loaded it up into an online survey tool. It will survey both rec programs and rec facilities. We'll be able to take the responses we receive, tabulate them very easily, and we'll plan on getting the word out through Community Pass, which Robin manages, the website, Facebook page, etc. So stay tuned on that. I know Gina also is going to have some more rec updates, so I'll shut my mouth on that one now. Quick thing on the utility subcommittee. I know we've spent a lot of time talking about JCP&L and working with our liaison on that one, but the utility subcommittee does more than that. One thing we do are field complaints from our residents when they have been unable to resolve an issue themselves with one of the utility companies. And we had that instance the last meeting where one of our residents on Riverwood Avenue indicated that she had suffered repeated property damage because of multiple water main breaks on Riverwood Avenue. That is the responsibility of New Jersey American Water. I actually met with that resident last week, did a survey of the property. I counted myself, right in front of her property, 4 or 5 separate patches of varying ages where you can tell New Jersey American Water went out there, put the backhoe down, repaired maybe a 1 or 2 section of main, backfilled, put a nice patch on it, and moved on. And these patches literally run right down the line. So they fix one spot, and the main breaks 2 feet down the line and 2 feet down the line. Obviously, this is unacceptable because this is just a myriad of patchworks as opposed to repairing the problem and replacing the main. The resident had spoken with the folks who were out there last time. It occurred about 2 or 3 weeks ago. They said, look, this is an old main. This is going to just buy a little bit of time. This is not going to last. The entire main needs to be replaced. We have talked previously about DISIC, and not to get all geeky on you, but distribution system improvement charge. All of us pay New Jersey American Water $1 or $2 a month on our bill. That charge, which is meant to provide the capital to do the replacements for aging mains. That's exactly where that money's supposed to go. I reached out to the New Jersey American Water external affairs person, multiple emails, photos, phone conversation. They've committed to me that they will address the problem. And obviously I'll follow up to make sure that happens. So that's a work in progress. So just want to give you an update on that. Board of Health, there is no update. There is no meeting this month because there are no pending applications. And Board of Ed, there is a meeting on Thursday. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
That's it's quite a lot. And thank you so much for stepping up on that issue on Riverwood. Ms. Moreski, Committee Woman Moreski.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. So, Environmental Commission, we haven't had a meeting. Our next one is scheduled September 2nd. JVH, we haven't had a meeting. It's been really quiet out there for me. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 16th. And Mayor, did you want me to step in here with the traffic thing, or do you want me to wait till new business?
No, do it now.
Okay, so we've been talking to some of the neighbors in our town about traffic issues. So in order to address some of these, we've come up with a new traffic committee. The issues are particularly on Black River Road. So we've invited that particular resident who's come before us before to meet with our engineer, Paul Ferraro, Chief Rock, and myself to review the data that these guys have gathered from the speed signs that are posted out on the road. I know we talked about it a little last week at our meeting, but we'll go over it with our resident and see what we come up with. But additionally, as a resident of the Hills neighborhood myself, I understand how important the impact traffic can be. Our small town roads are really sensitive to how our residents and our visitors drive them. And we would like to continue to work together with our professionals to keep them safe and secure for everyone. And we're hoping that this forum, this committee, will be a good place for people to bring forth concerns and some new ideas.
Okay, great. All right. Well, good luck with your first meeting, and we'll be anxious.
We will meet next week, and I'll let you know what happens.
Okay, great. So before I turn to Committeewoman Fernandez, in the past we've talked about, in the wake of the George Floyd killing, status of relations with the police and with community and with municipal government and with state government and with all other forms of interaction between folks who represent government and the surrounding communities, particularly the minority communities. And I had said that I was going to look at this and that I did not necessarily see this as police only, and nor did I ever think or thought that the weight of cultural, racial, minority issues should be borne exclusively by police. That's whether that's police here or otherwise. So after giving it a fair amount of thought, running a small town government, essentially the interactions that folks have with municipality runs through township staff, obviously. And what do we have already that's geared up to deal with township staff issues? And to me, the thought was this was HR and personnel, and something that should sit with the liaison to the HR personnel, and that's me and Gina. And I asked Gina if she would head up within HR personnel, convene that would focus on these cultural differences and look at it from two different fashions. One, from within the building. We have a diverse work group here between the various buildings, DPW, police, administration building, the court. So how folks deal with each other within the walls of the township. And then also, and just as importantly, the way that all our employees work with the community. And we, in a diverse area, we have many different ethnicities represented here in Bedminster. I don't believe there is such a thing as, you know, a typical Bedminster person. And I make sure that when our staff and our administration, whether it's police or DPW or it's at the front desk, that folks are treated with respect and sensitivity. And now I'm going to hand it over to Committeewoman Fernandez.
Because
Your subcommittee report.
Thank you, Mayor. So like Mayor said, in light of all that's going on in the nation regarding cultural competence, on a local level, we wanted to make sure that we are growing and evolving as a township. So we've come up with an idea of creating an interpersonal cultural competence committee. And the key elements of the committee would be awareness, attitude, knowledge, and skills to ensure that our township and its policies are willing and to put into action skills that are needed to improve understanding between people, respect, and of course to be open and inclusive of all cultures. So the committee would specifically target our employees, as well as how our employees interact with our constituents, our public, and the residents that we serve. So that's we're going to start that with our HR director, and we're going to start a committee and get some people involved in that. So that's a great thing. As far as Fall Fest charities, we had a meeting last week, again, to follow up with a possible Halloween event. Representatives of each charity had gone back to their organization, and it was unanimously decided by the heads of each organization that an in-person event would just not be the safest thing. They have no idea what the fall is going to bring regarding COVID-19. And there'll be no live event. However, there will be a solicitations letter that goes around to sponsors, hoping that sponsors will donate, as well as the 50-50 will still take place. Regarding recreation, Colin gave us an update. I just wanted to give another update about the movie night. So on a lot of our Facebook community pages and stuff like that, residents were asking, well, is Bedminster going to do a drive-in movie? Is Bedminster going to do a drive-in movie? Other towns have done it. It's been a great success. So our recreation committee met, and specifically Bill Rosen has gone over and above, calling places, getting prices, getting cheaper prices. So what it comes down to is we still need sponsors to sponsor the event in order to cover the cost of the movie. And we have a few sponsors, but if anyone knows any local businesses, we want to try to avoid asking restaurants because they're hurting right now. But, you know, local construction companies, local other local businesses that might want to sponsor the event. They would have signage then at the event. And so if you know anyone, please let Robin know so that she can follow up with them. That's all my updates.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I will just do a quick update on Land Use Board. The Bedminster Farms application was scheduled to be heard last week. That matter was adjourned. We do understand that the applicant will be submitting some new information, amending their application. So that will be coming back. I don't know when that will be, but it will be coming back shortly. And let's see, the only other thing I can say is we'll be scheduling a meeting with Somerset County Planning on consideration of a planning alternatives for the AT&T site as part of the progress of the Somerset County's planning incentive growth area study they ran a couple of years ago. So this is essentially the next phase of that study, just looking at possibilities of what that property could be in the future. So no firm commitments, but we will continue to update you as those discussions with the county progress. So that was a fair amount of work under the subcommittee chairs. So thank you all for your great work. All of you are doing an awful lot of stuff, and it's all really good. Ms. Sullivan.
Okay, I don't have a written report, but I have two things I'd like to report on. Later in our old business, we do have the New Jersey American Water intervention for their rate increase. We currently have 7 towns, including Bedminster, that are participating in that case. I think it's safe to say that those 7 towns is pretty much where we're going to be with participation. However, if another town did still want to join, I think that's still possible, but it is getting a little bit late in the game, so to speak. To date, Bedminster has, as the host community, has been paying all the litigation costs and also the costs for our economics expert. I met with the CFO today. We've been paying that out of our special litigation account, but I think it's time for us to send out our first set of invoices to the participating towns. So we put together a letter today and some backup information, so that'll be going out in the next day or two for invoice number 1. So just to let you know in case you should have any conversation with any of those towns. Excuse me. Also, I did check in with the tax collector today. As you know, the third quarter property taxes were due August 1st with a grace period to August 10th, which was last week. And checking in with her today, the third quarter property taxes were at 98.23% paid. So she was pretty happy to report that to you for tonight. I know there was concern about how that might go, but we're right on track where we normally are at this time. So happy to report that. I do see
very good news, Judy.
I see Chief Rock and Deputy Clerk Ray. I don't know if either of them has anything they wanted to add tonight. If I see anything, Chief Rock, Robin, either one? No? Okay, then that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Judy. So 98%, I've had discussions with some of the mayors and the surrounding towns, and you know, I don't want to speak for every town. I don't think they're doing quite as well as 98%. But what a lot of the municipalities have experienced is their tax revenues are coming in about where they're expected normally. Once again, maybe not at 98% like Bedminster, maybe a little bit lower, but they're coming around where they always have been, maybe a tad lower, but where some of these towns are experiencing a real loss is on non-tax revenues. So whether that's permit fees, construction fees, pilot payments, payments in lieu of taxes, so sort of, recreation fees. So we understand that some of the neighboring towns that may not necessarily operate as a rec trust, that they're seeing a tremendous loss in revenue associated with those types of fees that come in from, not from your property taxes, but from other sources. And that for those towns that rely on those non-tax revenues, that's a significant hit. So we don't rely on it so much, but it's, once again, I think that's very good news for Bedminster and hopefully a reflection on how our residents are faring financially with this crisis. Once again, we're still, I would love to say we're closing in on the end of it, but I don't think that's the case. So we'll continue to track how Bedminster does on receipt of tax payments and really the state of Bedminster residents, how their finances are doing. Discussion on introduced ordinances, scheduled for public hearings, we have none. Introduction of ordinances, we have none. Public hearing of ordinances, we have none. We have one item on the consent agenda. Unless there's a reason that anyone has to pull that item off the consent agenda, we're ready to approve the consent agenda. As soon as someone makes a motion.
I'll make
So
that
moved.
motion.
Oh, second.
Judy's muted, but she would say,
Sorry.
oh,
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Mareski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs.
aye.
Thank you.
Okay, resolution. So Chief, we're going to take you off mute because we're going to talk about these 4 resolutions, and they're all going to need a little bit of input from you. First resolution is Resolution 2020-077. This is authorizing the renewal of Fiddler's Elbow Country Club liquor license for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021.
So Mayor, I'm here. I could speak globally about, all 4 resolutions, being the fact that, my ABC officer went out and met with each of the establishments. He conducted the APC compliance inspections, followed, the regulations that are required. There's a separate report that's submitted. He comes back, Interior within the police department checks our records management system to see if we've had any negative contacts regarding, their ability to possess their liquor license. And, they all, passed everything. So there should be no reason that all the liquor licenses are not approved for another year. Obviously with COVID, we're usually doing this in early June prior to July 1st, but, everything was pushed off. So, as I sit here with all 4 resolutions, I'm confident that the ABC inspection, everything met, and they all should be approved.
Okay. So why don't we run through them individually? So the first resolution is authorizing the renewal of Fiddler's Elbow. May we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Oh, second.
A roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Mareski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs.
Aye. Next, authorizing the renewal of Delicious Heights Enterprises Corp. liquor license for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021. So Chief, similar for Delicious Heights, no issues?
None at all, sir. Nothing from that would be disqualifier in the ABC's, inspection process.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 2020-078?
So moved.
Second.
Again, roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Mareski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs.
Aye. Resolution 2020-079, authorizing the renewal of Grateful Spirits, Inc. liquor license for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021. Grateful Spirits, Inc., that's Colonial Liquors?
That's Colonial Liquors, yes.
Correct. No issues.
We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Again, roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye. Resolution 2020-080, authorizing the renewal of Cold Spring Liquor Corp. liquor license for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021. Judy, who is Cold Spring Liquor?
That's Pluckerman Inn.
That's okay. That's the Plucky.
Yep.
Okay. Chief, same.
Same, sir. They're found to be in compliance.
May we have a motion to approve Resolution 2020-080?
So moved.
Second.
Again, roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye. And Judy and Chief, real quick, what's the distinction between Fiddler's Elbow liquor license and the liquor license for Hamilton and Trump?
The only thing I can tell you is that we do not do that inspection, and that is, a function of the state of New Jersey and the ABC. We're not the ones that inspect them or issue that license.
Right.
And I also think the new cidery up on 206, it's the same traffic where we do not issue that license.
Right. So Fiddler's Elbow has what's called a club license, where Trump National, Hamilton Farms have a golf license. Fiddler's Elbow is related to their membership, where Trump and Hamilton Farms is related to golf memberships. And it's like the chief said, their inspection is through the state, not through us.
Okay. Thank you. That's it for tonight's resolutions. Approval of bill list. May we motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices?
So moved. Second.
And again, roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Discussion items. We've gone through a number of discussion items already. Is there anything additional that Township Committee members want to put up for discussion and public input? Seeing none. New business. JCP&L tree trimming. We've already covered that. So we're going to move over to old business. COVID-19 emergencies. We covered a fair amount of COVID discussions earlier. Short-term rentals. Nothing new. Engine braking. Nothing new. Pluckerman Park. This is Doug. That's back to the painting issue and the state of repair over there. Just want to follow up with Joe on if there's.
We were gonna. Sorry, Mayor.
Historic Pres.
Right. That's what I was. Yep. I was gonna hit that through Historic Pres, see if they've been re-invited to one of our parties, and we'll have them over.
Okay, great. JCP&L outages. Nothing additional. Are you sure?
You want to talk more? I mean, I can, but I don't think we should.
No. And New Jersey American Water rate increase. Is there any further update? I know Judy gave us the update on the participating municipalities. Is there anything further with the intervention action itself?
No, the discovery is proceeding as planned, so no update on that front.
Okay. It might be good when that request, well, it's not a request, when the invoice to the other municipalities goes out, do a quick little blurb on the status of the intervention.
Yeah, I prepared a letter to go with the invoice. It's just not an invoice showing up. There's an explanation, so.
Of course you did, Judy. How should shame on me for even asking. Township Committee comment. By the way, we do have a very brief executive session. So after we go through Township Committee comments, we will take a motion to adjourn to executive session. We will not be returning to public session. We will be taking no action in executive session that will require a public vote. So just a reminder, Township Committee comments, we'll make a motion to adjourn. Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to say two things, if I could. Number one is a shout out to the DPW folks right across the board, getting us up and running from the storm. Not easy to do. You know, trees and limbs and of the nature that were down were large and heavy, and just really good job. Like with the snow plowing, same thing here with the you know, the summer storms and the roadway closures that we experienced. So again, kudos to John and his staff. Excellent job. The other thing I wanted to mention. I'm sort of seeing this come through in social media, so I just figured I'd get out in front of it. There seems to be this politicizing of the wearing of face masks. And I just want to say and debunk that, you know, we came up with a return to work plan here for the township, and it was wear a face mask. And it wasn't because it was a particularly charged issue in politics. It has no place. It was because things like viruses and pathogens and how you counter that is a scientific and a medical type, you know, issue, and we'll defer to those experts. And if they say that is the best way to attack this problem, that's what we're going to do. So I just ask the folks when in the season that's coming up, they start hearing about constitutional rights to wear masks and that sort of thing. There's no place for that, at least in my book. This is all about trying to do the collective good to get through this problem. And the easiest way we're going to do it is if we all act responsibly and limit the exposure. So I don't get it where people are coming with that. And I don't know whether they're just trying to be professional troublemakers, but you know, to all of our constituents out there, we will always make decisions in the best interests of our community. And this is a great example. And it sort of irks me when I see people trying to make political statements about public safety and the health and the welfare of our residents, and then try to draw political distinctions about it. It's completely out of bounds. People should give it short shrift and really not pay any attention to it, because it's absolutely ludicrous. And that's all I'll say about it.
Well said, Committeeman. Well said. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. And just to dovetail to what Doug said, I want to give a shout out to our Bedminster residents as well as those in surrounding areas. You know, we do the farmers market every Saturday. And as we were getting ready this year, obviously we wanted to make sure we can enforce social distancing, but also we had the question in one of our farmers market meetings before we launched is what happens if people start showing up without masks? What actions do we take? You know, do we have the authority to throw them out? Well, guess what? Everybody who has shown up with a mask. And if they don't have a mask, they're running back to their car, or we're running to grab them a temporary mask. It's been terrific, and a big thank you, because it's given us the opportunity to make that event even more successful. So thank you all. And Doug, I couldn't agree more with all your comments. Thank you for those.
Committeewoman Moretti.
I just want to say real quick, thank you to all the guys on the committees, especially the farmers market and the rec committees, because you guys have been doing such work. It brings a sense of normalcy to town where most people aren't feeling very normal. So thank you guys for all that you do. That's all.
Thank you. Committeewoman Fernandez.
Yes, I'd just piggyback on what everyone else is saying. Thank you to our DPW for being right out there after our hurricane, impacted Bedminster. I happened to be down the shore, and it was worse here in Bedminster than it was down the shore, which is ironic because there was a tornado there, but it was just a mess. So thank you so much for cleaning all that up real quick. I also want to thank Committeeman Hickey for once again being a leader in communication. This natural disaster hits, and just like when COVID hit and everything just stopped, he was a leader in information. And if anybody who's on social media knows that people look to him for information, and he's always, the first one to jump up and provide any information he has. He reaches out to who he needs to reach out to, his contacts, and provides people with as much information as he has. So I wanted to give him a attaboy for that. So thanks again, Colin. And that's it.
Thanks, Gene.
Well, to dovetail with that, I'm going to give a shout out to Dunkin' Donuts for keeping Colin Hickey caffeinated.
That too.
It's obviously there's got to be something else.
I have a platinum flyer there, let me tell you.
That's all I have.
Mayor, actually, can we just give Zach Rubin a little shout out?
Oh, yes, please.
Just, he's our OEM coordinator, and, that's a tough job because when you're on, you're needed. It's emergency. And to help us guide through that and all the moving pieces that are out there, I just think that, he should be recognized because that's something he's not out on the front lines communicating with folks. He's very much on the back lines trying to make sure that everything in our logistics are up and running and we get back to a sense of normalcy. And that all has to happen before we can project it to the public. And I just wanted to, and I forget, I'm sorry that I didn't remember him earlier, but just wanted to give Zach a shout out and thank him personally for that.
Great point, Doug. And I'll say that when Zach found out that King's had run out of ice, went over to the fire department, which has a big old ice maker, and filled up coolers with ice and brought them over to Township and promoted anyone who needs ice, and you can't get it from any other sources. We got it here. So Zach did that, I believe, by himself on his own. And that was a great idea. And I know that folks took advantage of it. Also, while we're at it, the library, Tuesday evening, I was doing a tour of Bedminster, up on Union Grove, Pottersville, seeing the trees being cleared, swung by the hills to see which sections had power and which sections didn't, talking to a number of residents. And I swung by the library, which, as you all know, is powered by a backup generator. And the library was serving function as a warming, cooling station and a place for folks to go to charge their cell phones, to charge their laptops, to get access to internet. And there were folks there, and this was about Tuesday, 8:30 or so, and there was a nice complement of folks taking full advantage of the library's resources, and it's good to see that being used. Okay. Anything else? You. All right. Maybe a motion to adjourn the public session of tonight's meeting. And Judy, is everyone, we'll have John
Bellardo and Melissa Riley, his associate, will be joining.
So we don't need the chief and we don't need Robin?
No.
Okay.
So moved. Aye.
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 We will all see you in an exec. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you on the other side.